This week on Irish Bandit Revolution, Mighty Marvel Month rolls on as we look at my 5 favorite Marvel comic book characters. Irish Bandit Revolution begins now. Welcome back to another edition of Irish Bandit Revolution. I hope everybody is having a great week. I, as always, am your host, the one, the only, the second Irish Bandit. This week on Irish Bandit Revolution, we continue on with Mighty Marvel Month. I've been so enjoying Mighty Marvel Month so much, and I've really been looking forward to this specific episode because we're going to talk about, because the last few weeks we have been talking about the movies. So I figured this week, let's talk about the actual comics themselves. So this week, we're looking at my 5 all-time favorite Marvel comic characters. Now, some of these came about to become my favorite characters because of the movies. I'm not going to deny that. But the characters themselves are great, and let's just get right into it. And coming in at number 5 is a character that I only got acquainted with within the last 5-6 years, mainly because of X-Men Origins Wolverine. I saw the history of this character, and I thought he was one of the most compelling, funniest, most ass-kicking characters that I've ever seen. And of course, I could only be talking about Deadpool. So like I was saying before, I only really got introduced to Daredevil through X-Men Origins Wolverine, and I know that's not a good jumping off point, but once I learned more about the character and who Wade Wilson really was, then I started looking at him as like, wow, this is such an interesting character. Like, he's called the Merc with the Mouth for a reason because, all the fourth wall breaks he does, and just the constant yapping that he does. I really do think that when they went to cast Deadpool for X-Men Origins, Ryan Reynolds was the best choice because he had that cocky, arrogant attitude. But if you really know Ryan Reynolds, you know what a great, excellent person he really is. But he could do that kind of swagger, and when it came around to actually doing the Deadpool movie, recasting him as Deadpool and making it right this time around was just the most perfect thing to do. The R rating was needed for this character. So you had Deadpool, just this cocky, arrogant son of a bitch. I think one of my favorite things from the comic books is that I don't know if he's actually a part of the Avengers, but he does have access to the Avenger Towers. When Jarvis calls everybody sir, ma'am, every time they come into the building. Somehow, Wade Wilson was able to hack Jarvis and program him to say, whenever Deadpool came into Avengers Towers, to call him his funky fresh prince. Yeah, you gotta love something like that from Deadpool who can do that. He's just a great character, funny character, intense character. And one of the things that they really don't talk about all that much is that Deadpool does know sign language. And anyone who's read comic books for a long time knows that Hawkeye is partly deaf. So they can communicate with each other through sign language, which I think is really cool. I think Deadpool is going to go a long way with Deadpool 2 coming out. And the fact that he's Canadian as well just is kind of big thumbs up for me, much like Wolverine. So, great character, and I can't wait to see more from Deadpool. Coming in at number 4, this is one of the earliest characters that I remember, because I remember watching the old movies with Lou Ferrigno in them, and reading the comic books of this giant green gamma radiation rage monster, and being, wow. And of course, with the description like that, who else could I be talking about but the Incredible Hulk? My first real exposure with the Incredible Hulk was, like I said, with the movies starring Lou Ferrigno and Bruce Bixby as David Banner, because someone somewhere thought Bruce Banner was too gay. We're living in a more progressive world these days, so I don't think Bruce Banner would be a bad thing. Well, you've had the Hulk and the Incredible Hulk movies where he has been Bruce Banner, so I don't know. Bruce Banner doesn't sound too gay to me, but so yeah, that was my first real introduction. It was actually not the actual series, but it was the made-for-TV movies, like the Trial of the Incredible Hulk, which I think was the one that had Thor in it. Then you had one with Daredevil, who was just in a black suit, no horns and no red. But yeah, that was my first real introduction. And then there was the comic books, the Green Hulk, the Red Hulk, the Gray Hulk. I always liked the Green Hulk. Oh, and you had She-Hulk, the cousin of Bruce Banner. I always liked the Green Hulk. In later years, I kind of, don't want to give up too much of myself, but, I can kind of see a little bit of myself in Bruce Banner. He has the anger problem. I guess you can kind of say that sometimes I can let my anger get the best of me and let the Hulk come out in me. But that's about how I can really associate him. I think the Hulk is a great character, misunderstood character. Everyone sees him as this big monster when, Bruce Banner really can't control when he becomes the Hulk. You get, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. If everybody would just listen to him and not make him angry, the Hulk wouldn't appear. So I've really been enjoying what they've been doing with the Hulk in the Avengers movies. I think Mark Ruffalo has been a great choice. You had Eric Bana, who was okay. I think Edward Norton put in a pretty good performance as Bruce Banner in the Incredible Hulk movie. But Mark Ruffalo has been killing it ever since when he made his debut in the Avengers. And, he even looks like the Hulk, like before he becomes all big and green and they had some great behind the scenes footage of the Avengers with doing the mocap of his face and everything. It was just excellent. And yeah, the Hulk is a great character. Again, like I said, misunderstood character. And I think he has a great future in the Avengers in the MCU. I have not seen Infinity War yet. No spoilers. So anybody who gets spoilers, I'm just gonna be looking like this because I don't think I can ban you. But yeah. So yeah, Hulk is another character that I absolutely love. Coming in at number 3 on my list of favorite Marvel movie characters. Let me just have a look here. Because it's kind of mixed up of who... Okay. Number 3 on my list. I talked about him just a little bit recently in that last induction. He is the Norse god of thunder, and his first movie, it kind of gets maligned, but I think it was one of the best of Phase 1. But I just really like this character. He's a god. He's the god of thunder. Not Gene Simmons, but he's the god of thunder, Thor. Okay, this one I can accredit to the movies because I think Chris Hemsworth is doing a hell of a job playing Thor in, in the first Thor movie, then in Avengers. I really wasn't a huge fan of Dark World, and I haven't seen Ragnarok yet, and like I said, I haven't seen Infinity War yet, so still waiting to see those. But Thor, I think in the movies was such a great character, so well done by Chris Hemsworth, the cocky, arrogant god he thought he was. And, you had Mjolnir the hammer. Everybody seems to get that wrong, and I can easily pronounce it Mjolnir. Mjolnir. But yeah, the character of Thor is just one of the best there is. You have the Asgard background. You have him butting heads with Loki, his adopted brother, the god of mischief. And I think that makes for some great conflict there, between the two of them. You have the sort of familiar bond, and then you have Thor, who's god of thunder, god of mischief. It just seems like for a perfect pairing for, to go head to head. I think with Tom Hiddleston as Thor, he's been one of the best things about the MCU since Avengers. He was, you know, you kind of wrote him off in Thor, but when he came back in the Avengers, there was just something in which changed, and he just became better, a better villain and a better character overall. Hmm. I might have to change my I might have to change my induction to Loki, but yeah, Loki, Thor is such a great character, and I like what they're doing in the comic book now with making Thor female. Like, I, I've never said I was conservative or liberal or anything like that, but I do agree with some changes that are happening, and I think Thor being female is a great one because I'm all for strong female characters. You know, someone a female could look up to, which is why I'm kind of digging the women's revolution in the WWE right now because you don't have the eye candy anymore. Well, don't get me wrong. Some of the females on the WWE roster are extremely gorgeous, but they can kick ass too. Like you look at like a Sasha Banks, a Bayley, a Charlotte Flair. I think Charlotte Flair would be a perfect female Thor in a MCU movie. She is gorgeous. She has just a fantastic physique, strong. She could play that Greek goddess, and it's something that I'd love to see. Like I'm sure they'd cast some Hollywood starlet, but for my money, I'd go with Charlotte Flair because I think she could do the role justice, and I think Thor is just a great character overall since his debut, honestly, and he is my number 3 favorite Marvel character. Coming in at number 2 is probably the first character that I was really introduced to growing up. There was just something about him, maybe it's the fact that he was a kid just like me, who got these amazing powers, and instead of using them for monetary gain, he used them to fight crime in New York City. Some people thought he was a hero, some people thought he was a menace. I thought he was just an incredible character overall. And of course, I'm talking about Spider-Man. So, like I said, I was introduced to Spider-Man very young because my brother collected a whole bunch of comic books when he was a teenager. And one of the ones that he collected a lot of was Spider-Man. And I especially loved the run Todd McFarlane had with Spider-Man when he was drawing issues for Marvel. He had such he has such an interesting art style that it just kind of pulled me in. And that's the artwork that I remember. But Spider-Man was such a great character. You had the story of Peter Parker who was bitten by a radioactive spider, and he didn't use well. He did. He went. The origin varies from medium to medium. Like some say he goes on a TV show like an Ed Sullivan. Yeah, that's it. Another is he goes to a local wrestling match as the Spider-Man. But they all end up with somebody robbing the venue, him not stopping the robber, and then it turns out that that robber killed his Uncle Ben. So from then on, he decides, oh no, I'm not going to let any of this happen again. And he becomes a vigilante, in essence. Some people see him as a hero. Other people, like editor-in-chief of the Daily Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson, see him as a wall-crawling menace and who's just as bad as the criminals. I don't know what we were supposed to think of J. Jonah Jameson because I remember very vividly there was one issue of Spider-Man when Jameson is kidnapped by the Chameleon. And, he's chained up to his bed, and I remember him, trying to break free of his shackles and blood running down his wrists. I remember that very vividly. It's one of the best Spider-Man issues there is. And then you had like a whole bunch. One of the things that I really remember was the Spider-Man cartoon from the 60s. That was my first big introduction to Spider-Man. And then you had the Sam Raimi movies. Spider-Man, great movie. Spider-Man 2 was better. Spider-Man 3 was less than better. Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2 were good. They could have been better. And Spider-Man Homecoming was fantastic. I absolutely loved Tom Holland's interpretation of Spider-Man. It's something different because I think it was a little mix of Tobey Maguire and a little mix of Andrew Garfield. You get that in Tom Holland, and he is doing a great job as Spider-Man. And I love seeing the Iron Spider costume in the Infinity War trailers. So I hope the next Spider-Man movie, if there is a next Spider-Man movie, I think there is, I don't know, but I think it's going to top Spider-Man 2, and I definitely think it's going to top Amazing Spider-Man 2 as far as sequels goes. And I thank God we're not getting another origin story of how Spider-Man became Spider-Man. He was already Spider-Man to begin with. So, I absolutely love Spider-Man. I think he's a great character, and he's probably one of my favorite Marvel heroes, if it wasn't for who was at number one. So we'll get into number one in a little bit, but before we do, let's talk about a few honorable mentions. Well, we're not going to talk about a few honorable mentions. I'm going to show you a few honorable mentions, and then we'll talk about those honorable mentions Irish Bandit Extra coming up later this week. So here are the honorable mentions. And coming in at number one, my favorite Marvel character, Wolverine. I don't know what it is about Wolverine, but there was just something about him that just drew me to him. Like I said, my brother, big comic book fan, so, I had everything at my disposal from Marvel, DC, but something about Wolverine just drew me to him. I don't know if it's the fact that he was Canadian, or he was just this badass character who just didn't take any crap from anyone, no matter what side. Or whether it was just the fact that he had these giant claws come out of his knuckles, and I didn't know how to explain that. Like, that's his power? Well, no, his power is actually he can regenerate his healing factor. They can shoot out of his claws, and the claws can shoot out of his knuckles, and that can heal around them. Oh, so you can like shoot him in the face, and the wound will close on its own. I don't know. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that mutant ability. But yeah, something about Logan, it was just great, and I think Hugh Jackman has done a great job with him from the very first X-Men movie all the way to Logan, which is my favorite Wolverine movie. Like overall, of the three, like I've said in the retrospective, Logan was my absolute favorite go as Wolverine, and the character itself is just a badass. From his origins of, not knowing how old he truly is to joining Weapon X, getting the adamantium grafted onto his skeleton to make him indestructible, and then losing his memory so he doesn't know anything that happened to him beforehand. So he's just wandering, clueless of who he truly is and becoming an X-Man. Wolverine is one of the most dynamic, unique, and fun characters there ever was. And I think one of the funniest things, too, is that in the comic books, Logan is about 5'2", where Hugh Jackman is about 6'2". So you have a full height, full foot disparagement between the two of them. But I think Logan is great. His character has been so well done throughout the years, and I can't wait to see if Marvel's going to do anything with him now that Disney has bought 20th Century Fox. So they can definitely recast somebody new and put the X-Men into the MCU and make this thing go on for years. Oh God. If we're suffering from superhero burnout now, oh God, this is just going to keep going. When's it going to stop? No, I shouldn't say that. Maybe that's a topic for another day. Well, that wraps it up for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. Who's your favorite Marvel character? Let me know in the comments section down below. It can be from comic books or it can be from movies. I focused mainly on comic books today, but that's just me because I've been talking about movies so much that we kind of had to delve into the comics this week. So let me know in the comments section down below who your favorite character is. Don't forget to share this video anywhere you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever. In the description, you're going to see a link to my Redbubble store where you can get all your Irish Bandit merchandise, be it stickers. We've got t-shirts, we've got baseball shirts, we've got women's racers, we've got leggings, we've got coffee cups, we got travel mugs. Whatever your heart's desire, you can find it at the link in the description below. Over my shoulder right here, you're going to see a link to last week's episode. That's part 3 of the 3-part X-Men retrospective, including Deadpool. Had to talk about that great movie, and we talked about Deadpool, the character, a little bit in this episode. So go back, watch that. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, tap the bell and you'll be notified whenever I upload anything new or whenever I go live. Now, next week we end Mighty Marvel Month looking at the best and some of the worst Marvel movies that are out there. We're going to run the gambit of everything, including like the earlier movies, like the very early from the 1980s Captain America movie. We're going to talk about the Punisher movie from 1989 starring Dolph Lundgren. We're going to talk about Fantastic Four, all the Fantastic Four movies, even the Roger Corman movie that never saw the light of day. We're going to talk about that one. We're going to talk about the 2 other ones starring Jessica Alba. We're not going to talk about the more recent remake because I haven't seen it yet. I've heard it's bad, but maybe we'll get into it a little bit. But much like we did for the DC Best and Worst, we're going to break it down into different categories. And, you know, best of this category, worst of the same category. So we're gonna get into all that next week, talk about some of the best and some of the worst Marvel movies. And then in 2 weeks, it is the Irish Bandit Revolution season finale. It's also going to be the 100th episode of Irish Bandit Revolution. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. And we're going to talk about my 5 all-time favorite episodes of Irish Bandit Revolution to commemorate the 100th episode. So I hope you join me for that 100th episode and the season finale. So guys, I hope you join me for that. And until then, hope you guys have a great week. I'm the Bandit, and I'm out of here. Take care.